Hey, welcome back to Digs on Twitch for my YouTube exclusive content. Today we are running with a deck that I have a big place in my heart for, which is 4-color Loam. 4-color Loam is a legacy mid-range deck that utilizes the power of Mox Diamond, Life in the Loam, Green Sun's it to some extent to find powerful threats like Knight, and in this case Uro, or maybe some disruption in Leovold or Scavenging Ooze. And has a pretty nice suite of removal in Abrupt Decay, Liliana, Strix to some extent, and then it actually utilizes lands as well to remove creatures in Blast Zone, Cabal Pit. Maverick buys you a bunch of time as well. This deck is looking to usually accelerate out a turn 2 CMC threat or Piece of Disruption through Mox Diamond, and then maybe something like a Chalice of the Void, which is great against both combo and some fair decks. A turn 1 Sylvan Library or Bob can be pretty hard for some decks to deal with on turn 1, or even just a Loam to grab back the land that you Mox Diamond with. I think one of the hardest things about this deck is sequencing your land drops and knowing which lands to get, because you can't always have Mox Diamond starts, and if you don't, the mana can be a little bit tough. Here we have I guess here is the setup for lands we have that aren't just traditional, either lands we can get with fetches or Wasteland outside of Dryad Arbor. So we have Blast Zone as a utility land for any sort of threats we want to blow up. Maybe it's a Delver that we can't answer in the air. Maybe it's an enchantment like Rest in Peace, or maybe Counterbalance. BUG is great against the graveyard decks of the format. We can search it up with another Reliquary, which is nice. Cabal Pit is also great, so with Threshold we can start dealing with creatures. Krakus is fine against decks like Depths. It can deal with pesty threats like Thalia as well. Maverick is a lot better with Dreadhorde Arcanist out of the format. Obviously with Arcanist around, Maze wasn't doing too much. It did stop the 1 damage, but that's not really what you cared about. Triumph is an interesting one. It's a 3 mana land, which can also cycle. We can find it off our fetch lands as well, so it's just another Thicket or Boar, which allows us to instant speed Loam, which is pretty great against something like a Scavenging Ooze or a Surgical Extraction, just so we can save the life in the Loam from being hit. This deck has a pretty even spread of attack, so it has some pretty good things for the fair decks with the amount of ways it can grind. Uro is a really nice addition to this deck because Life in the Loam can be a little bit awkward if you're wanting to find a threat, and Uro's in particularly really strong here because you can mill it from Loam and then also cast it from the graveyard. So if you of course put something like a Knight or a Leovold in the bin, you're not getting it back, but in this case we can just keep Loaming and hopefully hit an Uro and get back into the game that way. Uro obviously really nice in this deck as well because we're probably always going to have a land to put in off its ability, and it's just a huge threat that is now still in the format, so pretty happy to be trying it out. Baleful Strix is interesting as well. I think the reason for this is just being a bit of a wall. You know, if your opponent attacks with like a Gomag Angler, or maybe has to use like a Plague Engineer to get rid of it, you're pretty happy because it's already replaced itself with a draw. I'm sure there's lines where you can actually use the draw to get a Loam back, which is interesting, but Strix is cool. You might have seen Loam probably more popularized as a red deck with Punishing Fire and Grove the Burnt Willows, but this seems like a really cool version, so I wanted to play this and see how it goes. This is kind of built off Matt Soul's version that he was playing, and I believe that Matt Vuk, also known as Aussie Man, was also playing a version like this. The board is pretty clean as well, which is nice. So Leyline for the graveyard decks, Collector Oof for Death and Taxes, Urza Stompy, any sort of LED or artifact decks, Gaddock Teeg, great against combo, great against decks like Blue-White Miracles, great against Urza, great against Moon Prison as well, which is nice, stopping things like Karn, Chandra, Fiery Confluence. Meddling Mage up for the combo decks, like Show and Tell. Doomsday is really solid, also pretty good against Elves, but with these 3 Plague Engineers and the 2 Swords to Plowshares, I don't think Elves is going to be the biggest issue, but still Mages is really nice. Tabernacle, just for the fair decks. Something like Death and Taxes, we might just switch Tabernacle with Bog. Rex Sage, just really nice because it only costs 1 green, so it's easy to get out with a Blood Moon in play. I think that's probably a reason to play it over Night of Autumn, just that the CMC cost isn't really restrictive, and probably a really good answer to things like Blood Moon, Jade, those sort of threats. And then Plague. Plague just a really good way to fight against fair creature decks, especially tribal decks like Goblins and Elves. So this should be, yeah, really interesting. I'm really happy to see how this deck goes. And yeah, let me know what you think of Loam right now. I will see you in game 1. Thanks. Hey, welcome back to Dukes on Twitch. We're playing against Styfro, which is cool. We on the play as well. Obviously, their pile was hit pretty hard by the ban updates, so this should be pretty interesting. This is going to be one of those hands which is a little bit awkward, just because it's going to... We don't have a green source that comes in untapped, so we can't go turn 1 Green Sun Zenith for Dryad Arbor into turn 2 Lily or Uro. So I think I am going to mulligan this, but it is tough because it is a really strong hand otherwise. It's not the greatest against Wasteland, which I believe Styfro would be on, some sort of Delver deck. Turn 1 Tranquil Thicket. If this gets Wastelanded, then it's pretty tough from there. So I think just because of that, I am going to mulligan this. I do want to have a better setup. This hand is great in mid to late game, but I think just because of the early game I don't have a great hand to work with, I'm going to mulligan this. This is better. This is a turn 1 Bob, which is pretty nice. So I'm going to keep this. I'm going to put back a Trop. And just play a turn 1 Bob. I will use a fetch land to go and get probably just a Bayou. And then I'll cast the Mox, pitching the Scrubland and play a Bob. So Bob really nice here because it allows us to hopefully get back the card loss that we got from the Mox Diamond. But if this is like a Fatal Push, it's pretty rough. It's going to be a Thoughtseize, which is pretty fantastic. We currently don't have anything. But Chalice is probably the best draw that we can actually get there. Thoughtseize main deck off an Underground Sea. This is probably something like Ant. So I don't mind just going for Chalice for 1 here. And attacking with Bob. I might even get Dryad Arbor in my end step, because it allows me to increase my clock. Baleful Strix. Okay, interesting. Well, I'm going to keep this around just to see what we hit. If I find a Sylvan Library, I do want the fetch ability in case there's just more lands on top. Opponent thinking. Chalice obviously pretty strong here. And luckily no Ochre to clean it up, so we're looking pretty strong, especially with this Loam. I'm definitely not attacking into the Strix. I don't think the Dark Confidant is a great trade for the Baleful Strix, but it's pretty nice for Styfro, because it is a way that they can, and there's the Sylvan Library, really start applying some pressure. So I think here I'm happy just with Library, playing around Days. Bog is interesting. I don't know if I want a Bog yet, in case my opponent is also on Uro, so I think I might just go with the Maze pass. Library also really nice, because it allows you to set up the triggers down the road for Dark Confidant, so you can make sure you're not going to be taking too much damage. And Dak's going to be nice. Dak can steal the Mox Diamond, which is interesting. Which here, yeah, I think I'm happy to go for Dryad Arbor now in my end step. Because it means I can actually attack the Dak and maybe trade with the Strix. I can actually attack with both creatures and then untap the one that's blocked to remove it from damage, which is kind of cool. So Bob triggers, draw a Wasteland, which is nice. Another Mox Diamond is fine. And a Strix is pretty good as well. So let's go put the Loam on top. Pay for this. Let's attack Dak with both. block here means we can maze this. Now we can go cast Mox, pitch the Bog, play Wasteland. I don't mind getting Loam online. That's pretty interesting as well. I don't really need the Strix yet, and I can kind of save that for down the road, so let's go with hit Grove, and then Loam back, Wasteland, Verdant, Bog. Nice. That's pretty good. Another Strix is fine. We don't have playing at your main deck, but we do have some nice ways to deal with these, or at least make them start having some sort of threats. And this Wasteland's going to be really good if it keeps going strong. Do I want to Dredge here? I don't think I do. This turn I want to Wasteland and probably try to find something like a Knight or an Uro, so I'm going to cancel this and look at the top. Nice. So let's put back Bob and put back the Triome. Play Wasteland. Play Knight. It's pretty good. Take them off the trop. And pass back. Hopefully I set that up right. I should have put the land on top of the Duck Confidant so that I don't flip the Duck Confidant. Jace is pretty strong. Jace Bounce Knight is pretty good here. I guess they don't really care because of Alpha Strixes, so... I think I do want a Loam here, because then I can turn on Cabal Pit. Nice. I also don't want that Dark Confidant on top, so... There's an Uro, which is nice. Uro is really strong. We also drew the Cabal Pit, which is nice. I think I'm happy to pay for this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's I think the play is put... It's tough because I want to attack with all creatures at the Jace. If I take care of one Strix, I can just maze back the one that I don't attack. I get blocked. So I do just want to make sure I don't screw this up here. I do have to use a black to activate it. Currently don't have threshold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I guess we put this on top. And I don't want to pay for the Uro yet, but I do want it. Because what I want to do here is Verdant, fetch, and then use Knight to take out a Strix. But then we're still dealing with only 2 creatures attacking, so... I'm sure if you can see in chat what the line is, definitely let me know, because I am really interested to see what it is. Oh, what if we pay for Uro and then we use the durability to actually get it into play? That's pretty cool. It's hard though, because I want to be able to attack with my Dryad Arbor to make 3, but I want to cast the Uro here. And I also want to use a land that doesn't come in untapped. Because I could Verdant and then try to just draw it naturally, but I know it's on top, so that's always tough. Let's go for... Uro. See if this resolves. I'm going to force it, okay. Played the Triumph tapped because it just gives me access to all colors like the Mox, which means next turn I could cast the Uro back, hopefully. I do have Blast Zone for 2, but that blows a lot of my stuff, so I think here it's just going to be a pass. Perhaps it's actually okay to take my opponent off a land with Knight. We'll see what happens. 2 cards down, 1, 2, 3, 4. The Mox is pretty tough because it gives them access to so many colors that it's kind of hard to evaluate which land I should take them off if I do take them off a land. Deck's going to be okay. Should have floated a color there because then I can... I guess no, it was already tapped here. I was going to say then I could use the Knight, but this is going to be fine. I can reveal the Cabal Pit to Dark Confidant. Liliana's pretty good as well. They sack. And now we can play Cabal Pit. Sack the Bayou. Go and get another Bayou. This. Probably just attack the deck to get it off the field. Okay. Definitely in a scary spot though. We're also down 7 minutes on the clock, so one thing that this deck does do is grind, and with commentary it's also quite slow, so hopefully I can play this to a speed that actually does put me in a good position. Uro is fine because we have the Bog in hand. Okay. I want to stop the end of damage because I want to attack all at Chase just to make sure it dies. And then end of damage. I was supposed to untap with Maze, but it didn't work. Bog our opponent. I should have ticked up first with Lily to make them discard, but luckily it didn't matter. This is going to be an interesting one. I don't think I really want the ley lines. They only play Uro and Punishing Fire. Maybe the Rexage, but I don't think it's that great. This is actually an interesting one. Plague Engineer is kind of nice because it is a nice answer to Baleful Strix because it deals with the Strix and then my opponent has to use a spell on the Plague Engineer to actually get rid of it. So it's a lot better than, you know, my opponent playing a Strix and drawing a card to replace itself, and then if I spend an Abrupt Decay on the Baleful Strix, I'm down a card. So that's pretty tough. I might need the Rexage. They might bring in Ley Lines, so I don't mind just having the Rexage as a Green Sun's target. Loam still seems fine. Sylvan Library seems great. It might just be one Bob. As good as Bob is, there are a lot of hits for my opponent, especially playing probably Styfro Pile being Styfro. So we'll see how this performs. BUG's still great, especially with Uro in the deck, so... I could see Swords to Plowshares, but because I'm still playing Chalices, I don't think I want it. I just want to rely on the Decays and hopefully the BUG to be really good. But yeah, in that game, like, you know, obviously a lot of plays with Loam and Dark Confidant buying us a lot of cards. It's tough to really just make sure you're not having a bit of tunnel vision into the wrong play, or just not seeing a line because you're so thought into just, you know, maybe beating down with Knight or using Knight to just keep getting Wastelands. Like, there's a lot of different plays, so I can see where getting reps with Loam is only going to make you a better player if you are wanting to play Loam. It's definitely the best way just to get experience going and know which decisions take the longest, which lands you're getting the most. Because there's nothing worse than like losing 2 Mox Diamonds and then realizing that your mana base is actually really badly put together by your choices of how you fetched and so on. So, pretty happy to get game 1. This is a pretty good hand. I'm going to keep this. It's a turn 1 Knight or it's a turn 1 Chalice. I'm pretty keen to keep either way. See if my opponent has Thoughtseize. Interesting. Bob as well. Okay. I'm going to go for... Chalice first. I think Chalice is the most disruptive piece here. And then we can follow it up with the Knight. And then probably Bob. Land is pretty nice. I think just Bob here is fine, but Knight's actually pretty good because it also turns on Wasteland straight away. I assume we might see an Abrupticator or Assassin's Trophy here. I also have Windswept Heath to keep the Knight alive through a sack effect, which is kind of cool. Petty Theft. Okay. I guess one thing I don't want to see is him to Tarak. Klotz is going to be pretty good. I don't know if we actually have an answer to Klotz. Well, at least we get to go Knight into Bob here. Don't want to force that, that's fine. Okay. Probably just a Tundra. I could get a basic Forest player on Blood Moon, but we have the Mox Diamond, so I'm pretty happy just to go for Tundra. Into Bob. Clot's really nice. Just trying to think if we have an actual way to deal with it. I don't think we do. I don't think this deck has a way to deal with Clots. Make it a creature and then cracks it. I think that's literally the one way to get it off the table. You could play something like Skyclave Apparition if you're playing white. Celestial Purge, Council's Judgment, Teferi Bounce is another way. Strix is a good start. I'm going to keep this. It might cause my opponent... I guess they can't have Thoughtseize anyway because of the Chalice, so... I could see this Cloth just going the length, so... I think we'll take a few more draw steps and then see how this ends up, because if I can't deal with the Cloths and the Uro is pretty good because it allows me to actually get back into this game. My opponent has 2 cards, and they could have just a hardcast Force, but no Force, thankfully. That's pretty good. My opponent can get back Punishing Fire here because I gained life, which is interesting. Maybe I should have fetched beforehand. Attacked first. So we need a Bayou so we can go blue, green, and then Wasteland. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. Let's take them off red. I guess they still have the clots. But this should be fine. Three cards for my opponent. One is Punishing Fire. Okay, let's draw. Alright, that's Dryad Arbor, which is kind of nice. I think if I am going to beat clots, it's literally through another Titan. So I could have attacked there and I should have attacked there. There's definitely no reason not to. Just accidentally misclicked. But I do like the flavor of this setup. But I think Styfro is in front here. Really fortunate for me to be able to play Uro and cast it in the same turn, because if I can't, Clots just deals with it so well. Snap into Trophy. Yeah, that's pretty good. Library's pretty good. I'm not going to attack because I do want the Strix for Burrower, but they do have the Punishing Fire anyway, so I don't think there's really any reason to do anything here. Might as well at least force them to Punishing Fire it. Yeah. Clots is real tough. Like, I don't really want to bring in Meddling Mage for it. I think I just have to make sure they just don't draw it. Like, it's just one of those cards. Oh, okay. Put on top, pay for this. I don't mind Chalice for 2. We can still cast Abrupt Decay, which is really nice. I guess one way that we can consider Clots is Scavenging Ooze is a nice way to sort of control it. I do have to Green Suns for Ooze though, because I can't cast it with this out. Put on top, concede. Clots. Yeah, I think we just run this back. I don't think there's really any changes that I want. Rex Sage is mainly for Sylvan Library and any sort of other shenanigans. I guess it also hits Baleful Strix if I really need to, because it's an artifact creature, which is nice. Yeah. This is a really nice hand. I'll keep this. I can also go turn 1 Sylvan Library here, which is pretty nice. And I'll ditch the Sagoth. I like the Sylvan Library turn 1 over the Bob because the Bob dies to so much more hate. It's going to be the Triome, I think. It does cycle, which is nice, but I think we have enough draw to not really care about that. I don't want to show the blast zone yet. Drown's really nice. Wasteland is okay here, but I have had more exciting plays before. Chalice is pretty sweet. I assume Styfro is playing, you know, Ponder, Brainstorm, maybe a few other cards. So I do think Chalice 1 is still fine. Wow, no land is huge. And a decay. Okay. Really want to find a Wasteland. Oof, okay. Come on, Wasteland. Oh, Loam? Knight is pretty good. I'm going to play Loam. I'm not going to attack. I'm going to hold up Drop Decay here. Okay. That's fair. Alright. Rex Sage, not good enough. Again, just holding up a Drop Decay. Wow, nothing. I don't think there's anything that gets me if I Wasteland here instead of their upkeep. I think this is fine. Yep. Rough. So Styfro just obviously hitting a pretty poor bunch of cards there, not hitting the third land drop, which is pretty huge. I do think Chalice 1 hopefully did something there. At least allowing them not to cantrip into a third land, because, you know, 3 lands means Dak, it means Uro, it means a bunch of things. So pretty fortunate there that, you know, our opponent obviously had a pretty tough draw, but you know, we applied some early pressure with the Force getting rid of the Sylvan Library, and then the Dark Confidant having to be hit by the Drown of the Lock. So pretty cool to win game 1. If you saw something that I could have done differently, let me know in the chat. I'm always looking to improve. And obviously I am pretty rusty with Loam, so there are a few turns that take a little bit longer than they should. So yeah, I'll see you in game 2. Thanks, and consider subscribing if you like this. I'm pretty close to 1,000, which is cool. So yeah, hopefully more Loam content to come. Cheers. Hey, welcome back to Jigs on Twitch. Back with round 2. Up against TK Man. We played against Styfro Pile in round 1, which I assume you've seen. If you do like this content, definitely consider subscribing. I am currently on a way to 1,000, which is very cool. It's been a goal for a little while, so yeah, hopefully see you as a sub. This hand is okay. It's a turn 2 Chalice on the draw. Obviously, this is a hand where I really would have loved to have Mox Diamond, but you can't always have it. And this hand does play around Wasteland thanks to the double fetches, which is kind of nice. So it is still a turn 2 Chalice, which I think is okay. I'm going to keep this. It also has a Wasteland, which is nice as interaction, which also doesn't take us off Leovold, which is kind of cool. So it does obviously take us back a turn, but I'm pretty happy to keep this in the blind. There's some thought that, you know, if this is a control deck, a combo deck, it's pretty nice if the Chalice can come down for just 0 first, and then the second one for 1. But Forest Pass is interesting. It makes me think we're up against a pretty fair deck. And luckily we can kind of act like we're on Maverick thanks to these fetch lands early on, so... I'm gonna play the Windswept Heath first because it can get basic forest, and then the Verdant can go and get swamp. I don't think this is a matchup where I want to play the Chalice for 0. I think it's going to be good as a turn 1 play. Or a Chalice for 1. And depending on my next draw, I probably am happy going for basics, because then the Tundra allows me to play the Leovold. But we'll see how this plays out. Okay, well, kind of the same basics as us, which is pretty funny. Chalice for 1. Okay, this might be the mirror. And this is going to be fine. I'm not going to fetch yet. I'm happy just to draw whatever. And a Knight's actually pretty fantastic. A Knight's going to be really nice in this matchup. So I could play Chalice for 0 here because it turns off Mox Diamond for my opponent. But it also gives my opponent more information about what we're on. I feel like I'm in a position where I don't want to. Maybe I just want to keep it for like discard to like Liliana. If my opponent had a Mox Diamond, they've most likely already would have played it. Trinisphere is going to be fine. This is looking like a blue, black, Sylvan Plug kind of deck. So let's go with untap. We draw Abrupt Decay, which is interesting. So let's go with fetch for a Bayou. And then fetch for a drop. And then play the Tundra and play the Knight. I also don't mind Leo just because it at least draws us a card. And Knight isn't doing too much here. So black, green, blue, Leo. It is interesting though. I think because I already have 2 Wastelands in hand, I'm happy to go with Leo this turn. And at least get it replaced with something. If my opponent also has like Sylvan Library, I assume they would have played it before the Trinisphere, but I assume Leovold is interacting in that way against my opponent. Maybe Abrupt Decay. Liliana Tick Down, target player sacks a creature, I draw a card, which is cool. So thankfully 2 lock pieces so far that haven't really had an effect on us. In saying that, we do have 2 Chalice of the Voids in hand that aren't doing too much against my opponent either, so we'll have to try to make use of these cards somehow. That's one reason that I did like Oko when I was an Oko player, was that, you know, a Chalice in this matchup is just a 3/3, but it's a lot better than being, you know, nothing else. Abrupt Decay, we get to draw first, which is nice. Loam's pretty good. Verdant, okay. So I can wasteland my opponent here. If I'm thinking about some sort of sack effect, then I could play Verdant Catacombs and hold up Dryad Arbor. And that's actually an interesting one. My opponent's on the Trinisphere plans. They only have access to 1 spell next turn. They can't double spell unless they have like Ancient Tomb into something and then a 3-mana spell. So I am only having to play around 1 card. So I actually am pretty happy just to go for Knight off and Dryad Arbor. Maybe playing it a little bit too cute there, but I think that if my opponent does have another out to the Knight, it's either a Abrupt Decay or a sack effect, and at least this one plays around the sack effect. Trophy. Alright. Let's go and get a basic forest. Forest because at least it's an extra green source for something like Scavenging Ooze. They missed a land drop as well, which is pretty huge. Decay. Alright. Now I'm pretty happy just to loam back the wasteland and keep the other 2 lands in there, just because of night. But I think this is better because what I can start doing is loaming into an Uro, which gives me a higher chance to actually hit a threat, which is really nice. I still don't care about Chalices here, because a Mox Diamond is going to cost 3 anyway through the Trinisphere, so that's taxing enough if they want to go that route. I can be pretty aggressive here as well. If my opponent's only playing 1 of each basic, I can Wasteland the Misty, make them find a dual land, and then Wasteland it. Pretty happy just to get Dryad Arbor in my end step. I think Loam is correct if I am looking for a threat, because I have I'm drawing 3 essentially to try to find an Uro instead of just drawing 1 to find a knight or something else. Island. Dryad. Okay, interesting. That's going to be fine. So let's go and get Dryad Arbor. Get to untap. We will Loam. We hit Dark Confidant, Cabal Pit, and Scrubland. We get a Wasteland. We can Decay Dryad. And we can swing for 1. Interesting island. I haven't seen this one. Pretty cool artwork. See if my opponent plays more basics. They do. Okay. So that kind of tells me that they're playing a Field of the Dead style list. This looks like a Green Suns for 3. Probably for another Dryad. Could be for Ramanap, but they've already played a land for turn, so this will be interesting. They're going to get an Uro. That's pretty good. Exactly what we were looking for. What I need here is BUG, which I don't have access to, unfortunately. But my opponent also needs another blue source, which is interesting. Alright, well sometimes it just happens. That's pretty good. Let's attack with Arbor. And then cast Loam, getting back Cabal Pit and Scrubland. The luck of the draw sometimes. I'm not sure if I can be 6ing here. I kind of want to wasteland my opponent if they do play a land that is wastelandable, but kind of suit in my turn. This is going to be a very grindy game, especially with no threats currently for really either of us, outside of Dryad Arbor, so... Charles is probably a card I'm pretty easily going to side out in this matchup. I think Leyline could be okay. A second Trinisphere is fine. Alright. Let's Loam here. Sylvan Library Chalice. Okay. So some nice things, but unfortunately just not the greatest. I'm going to play the Cabal Pit, and I'm just going to play the Loam. Could play Chalice for 2, but I think because I have the Abrupt Decay, I'm fine in that axis. I can also kill a lot of their things if they play like Dark Confidant, perhaps. Ooh, what I can also do is Sylvan Library's pretty good. I can wasteland my own Bojuka Bog to put it in the graveyard and then get it back with Loam to get an extra attack off it, which is kind of cool. So let's go decay this. Definitely not allowing them to have that. We will Loam. Scavenging Ooze, Bob, Verdant. Okay. There's some thought to just starting to draw, but it's tough. I do have more creatures that I can draw into than Uros that I can mill into, so it's kind of making sure that the ratio of, you know, 3 to 1 is on point, which currently it's not really. That's actually a good question for chat. If you think it's worth going for Uro off the Dredge 3, or if it's better just to be drawing 1 because you have a higher density of threats that you can draw into. Opponent having a good think. We're also pretty close on time, which is interesting. Opponent awaiting costs. Chalice on 1. Okay, that's fine. Nothing to do here. Liliana's perfect. Liliana's really nice. Each player discards. They had a Wasteland, but they didn't play it. That's really interesting. This feels like a a trophy. All right. Get that last swamp. Come on, threat. Green Suns is pretty perfect. I think it might just be Green Suns for Uro, because I also get to draw a card off it. But I want to make sure I tap correctly as well, so I actually have the colors up, so I can fetch for the second blue. I believe... no. Rough. Ah, all good. Sorry. Blue, blue, green, green. So blue, blue, green, green. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4. Green Suns for 3. Go and get Uro. We get to draw a card off this, which is nice. Caracas would be kind of cool, because then I get to put another land into play, but... this is still pretty good, because now I get to cast Uro and also have Night open. So let's go green, green, blue, blue, Uro, get rid of Chalice, Library, Chalice, Lily, Sylvan Library, that's already done. Happy just to go a creature. Scoots has already in the bin, so. Nice. Get your draw. Sylvan Library's pretty good. I think I'm happy just to go for Knight because it is so big. And just have a lethal attack next turn. Just to really put the pressure on my opponent to have an out this turn. I wonder how much my opponent's mana base is affecting them with just basics. Obviously there's no double black here, there's no double blue. They do have access to double forest, but you know, field's just a little bit too slow here. So we'll see what this is. Perhaps another Green Suns, that's more than fine. We have access to Caracas, which is cool. I kind of hope it's an Uro, because then I get to... Okay, Ramanap's interesting. We actually have lethal here, because we can... Cabal Pit this. Loam back Cabal Pit. Play Cabal Pit for turn. Hit Ramanap. And then we get to attack with all creatures. They're currently at 15. We could even wasteland ourselves if we needed to do more. But this is thankfully it. No replacement effect. 7-15 for Xaxes. Nice. Alright, so I don't want the Green Suns. I like the Bobs, the Loams, the Skoos. I like all of this. From their end, this is actually an interesting one. I do like the Rex Sage as a Green Suns target. I do like the Swords to Plowshares. I probably like some amount of Leylines as well. Liliana's interesting. I feel like we can make better use of our lilies by discarding things like Loam, extra chalices, so we're definitely getting rid of the chalices. I do like Blast Zone, Bajuka Bog, Krakus, Cabal Pit, pretty strong. Maybe it's a case of just some Leylines, or even just like one Leyline, because I can cast it late game. It's not the be-all end-all. I'm not too sure what this deck is. It looks like a Dryad, like a BUG Dryad deck. So probably playing things like, as we saw, Ramanap Excavator, Dryad of Elysian Grove, maybe Prime Times at the top end to find their Field of the Deads. So this seems okay. Rex Sage also really nice because it is a removal spell for Dryad of the Elysian Grove, being an artifact creature. I could see one Loam going, seeing that Wasteland is pretty good, but I don't mind just having a second Leyline to try to get there with that. Strix can ease some early pressure, which is kind of nice. Leo's interesting. It does allow us to draw some cards off their removal in Abrupt Decay and Assassin's Trophy, but I think we might just go with this and see how this slides. I'm not too sure on the Strixes. They do have to deal with them before they attack with anything, which is kind of nice. This is an interesting hand. We have access to something like Bayou into Green Suns, which allows us to cast the Abrupt Decays, but not anything else. We could go Trop into Green Suns, which is kind of similar. The Decays are really strong. It's just a case of, does my opponent have some sort of interaction with these? Because, you know, Leovold and Strix aren't two great cards in this matchup. They're okay, they're value, but I think I'm happy to mulligan once. We also have Mox Diamonds and Leylines to mull into, which is nice, and they're obviously a lot better in your opening hand. Okay, this is pretty interesting. I think I'll keep this and just bottom one Mox. I don't really want two Moxes, especially if my opponent brought in something like Force of Vigor. So happy just to do this. I guess the one nice thing about double Mox is like double Mox and then Wasteland my opponent, but it's not going to happen. Exploration's going to be really good for my opponent. Alright, so let's go... I guess we have to play Wasteland, and then we have to go Mox Diamond. Pitch probably a Wasteland here to play the Bob. And then our hand is kind of secretive. The Baron Moor and Cheggle Thickets hopefully are going to get cycled, and the Baleful Strix hopefully will cycle into something else, so I'm not a big fan of playing these lands as tapped, but we'll see what we draw into, because I might just have to, just to make sure we can hit our land drops. But it would be great to maybe draw into a fetch land, play the Strix. Wasteland on Wasteland would be fine here, especially if it stops them from playing a 3-drop. They have 4 cards in hand. And luckily they don't have an engine going. They do have Exploration to go wide, but they don't have a Loam, they don't have something like ramming up in a fetch land, so it looks like they're just untapping. We need to get some value off this Dark Confidant, which is kind of nice. Wow, not even a turn 2 play other than Wasteland. Blast Zone's actually pretty good. Because it allows us to deal with the Exploration. So I think here I'm going to probably play a land first and then cycle the Tranquil Ticket. In case we draw into another Mox Diamond. Okay. I don't mind just holding up the Baron more here. Wasteland, Wasteland, that's fine. Green Suns for 3, perhaps? I think in response, I'm just going to cycle this. And then just 6. Dryad, okay. Swords is pretty good, not going to lie. Gonna fetch up a Tundra. Swords the Dryad. Did I tap wrong? I did. I guess the forest means we can't cast these anyway, so we can't go all, yeah, we can't do all 3 in one turn, so a little bit rough, but hopefully it doesn't matter. Library's pretty good for my opponent. So, mana are a little bit restrictive here, especially with the Strixes. I really need this Mox Diamond to stick around. Alright, well, I guess greatness at any cost, right? This is the sort of Magic that I love, let's be honest. I mean, grinding against between 2 decks that just want to make value out of each card they produce. Play on the field as well. They do have black, I believe, so something like a Plague Engineer here would be pretty brutal. Still looking at this, I don't think there's anything that I would change. Yeah. They went down to 8, so surely they have an answer to these Dark Confidants. Wow, okay. Wow, okay. Now the big question is, do I take out the Sylvan Library or the Exploration? And seeing they've gone down to 4, I think I'd rather just turn off the Sylvan Library as anything. So let's go with Blast Zone to hold up the Scrubland for the Baleful Strixes. This also gives us another creature that can just attack. And it means that 1 blocker isn't enough, which is really nice for us. I mean, they need some sort of sweeper here. Something like Toxic Deluge. Blast Zone doesn't do it. I guess crop into Blast Zone? No, because that's only 1. They can't tick it up. I guess Green Suns for Uro does get there, but the Skoos gets to eat it, so Green Suns for Uro puts them up to 7. yeah, just not good enough. So thankfully, the mull, I probably could have kept the first hand. Maybe it was a little bit greedy to go down, but yeah, pretty happy with how this worked out. So we'll see you in game 3. Cheers. Hey, welcome back to Dukes on Twitch. Back with a pretty solid hand. I'll keep this. It is a turn 1 Sylvan Library, which is really nice. Into a turn 2 Knight. Ponder's okay. I also have the option here of Wasteland, so we'll see how my opponent goes about this Ponder. Because if they shuffle, I'm definitely Wastelanding this Underground Sea. I'm going to put them on Grixis. It could still be a combo deck. They chose not to shuffle. Okay. Scoos. I think his Sylvan Library is just too strong. Nice. Okay. Opponent having a good think about what I could be on, how they're going to deal with the Sylvan Library. Scrubland, okay. Scrubland's interesting. This makes me think it's kind of like an Esper Pile, perhaps. Baleful Strix, okay. Okay, wow. Well, I think I'm pretty happy to pay at least 4 here. Probably even pay 8 and just double Wasteland my opponent. Oh, Chalice is pretty strong. Put on top, put on top. I'm gonna go with the Bob first. No, Bob can run into Swords to Plowshares, so let's just try this out. My opponent let the Sylvan Library slide, so we'll see how this brainstorm looks. At least I'm forcing the brainstorm as well. That's pretty nice. Yeah, of one mind. Interesting. This might be Cal's kind of version of Esper Control from the Legacy Challenge that actually came first. Another Strix. Okay. Strixes are going to be annoying. Well, I will bog you. And then I sadly think the play just might be Ooze. Bob's interesting, but I do have to start dealing with these Baleful Strix. I guess the Bob also allows me to hopefully dig a little bit deeper, even though I'll be taking 2, I believe, from the Abrupt Decay on top. Hopefully the Knight's not there. This could be like a Teferi, a Mentor, okay. Well, at least we have the Abrupt Decay for the Mentor, but then we sort of got to start buying some time. Yeah, the Knight's there, that's unfortunate. Okay. Put on top, ooh. Put on top. So if they have another force and they force the Baleful Strix, that's pretty rough. So let's look at this. If I put the Strix on top, cast the Strix, and they counter it, then that's pretty huge. They need another force for that. But if they don't, I draw into a land for decay and decay the mentor. If I don't, I decay the mentor. I take 2 in the air at least. I think my way to win this game is to be a little bit greedy and to put this on top and then to cast the Strix. Was it Tundra? Was it a Tundra? No. Was it a Scrubland? It's a Scrubland, yeah, all good. So we can still cast. So let's go Strix first. Nice, okay. Scrubland, and now just Decay Mentor. Can attack here, which is nice. I don't know what's on top, which is tough. Inquisition's fine. There's not really a card here I care about. I guess Screws because it gains life, but... Get to block 1. We go down to 4. And then I believe there's still an Abrupt Decay. Yeah. Alright. Chalice again. Interesting. Put on top, put on top. Hopefully my opponent doesn't have something like a flash creature, like a hull breacher. That'd be pretty rough. They could have Snapcaster. Snap's pretty good. Oh, I tapped wrong. I tapped wrong. Oh, I tapped wrong. That's just a little thing. That's just a little thing that's gonna happen. Just rusty. That's really rough. That's really rough. Interesting matchup. I like the Chalices. I don't mind the Decays, especially for Mentor. I think Loam is okay. They're probably bringing in some amount of graveyard hate. I do like the Lilies. Wonder what I really want here. Let's have a quick look at what Cal was playing. It's here somewhere. Here we go. They're probably bringing in Surgicals, perhaps. Disenchants. That's rough. That's just not watching my mana, and that's a poor play. I think it might just be the Teeg, as it disrupts a little bit against Jace, Force of Will. Swords is interesting, but I don't really need it. We have the Decays, which are nice, and I also want to keep this Chalices online. I don't mind Plagues. I think Plagues might just be a little bit better. At least one Plague over one Knight. Strixes are also interesting. They do block other Strixes and keep Mentors at bay, but otherwise they're not doing too much. Maybe there's better cards there. I'm going to check this out and see how this sides. Turn 2 Chalice is still pretty good, so I'm going to keep this. Turn 2 Chalice into Bob. There's some thought to play the Bog just in case I don't draw another black source for a turn 3 Lily. But we'll see how this plays out. Inquisition's pretty good. They take the Bob. Interesting. Maybe they have Disenchant. Oh, Mox Diamond. That's actually pretty cool. Do I need any double costed other than... No. So I think it might just be a scrubland here. I guess a bayou means green for scoos, which is kind of cool. I think I'm actually pretty keen to discard the chalice. Because if they left it for the Inquisition, they obviously have an answer for it. And the Wasteland, I think, is going to do a little bit more this game. Pretty much anything we can draw, we can just play straight out, which is nice. There's some thought to keeping the Dryad Arbor just because it can block a Snapcaster Mage like this. Interesting. Pretty happy to see what they do with this blue mana. Hull Breach is okay. This comes back to the Dryad Arbor play where I could have gotten rid of maybe, or I guess they would have still had the Snapcaster around, they just wouldn't have attacked, so I guess I'll just take a card off them. I think a card in their hand is probably better than Snapcaster Mage. Definitely didn't work out the way I planned. Maybe the Chalice before the Lily was better. We do have some good draws. Tundra not being one of them. I am going to hold this up. It might bait. I guess because of the Inquisitions and Thoughtseizes turned off by Chalice, I am just going to play this. Also, if they are Hull Breach and do something, I do just want to do something, but this isn't looking good, especially with the Snapcaster Mage Ambush Vipers. This is currently 7, so it's a 3-turn clock. Doesn't really do anything because of the Hull Breacher. I think we're just dead, unfortunately, but I'll let my opponent play it out. Yeah, maybe just relying on the Liliana for too much is not where I want to be. And I guess Plague Engineers are kind of nice in this situation. We did bring one in, so... Rough. That was a pretty quick one. Yeah, maybe just my thought process around the Liliana being really good just did not work out, especially when Snapcaster's there. Just really good. I think if I did think about that, and there was a game 3, I'd probably bring in the Plague Engineers as just ways to either keep off the Snapcaster Mages, the Baleful Tricksters, and also Mentor is just a pretty solid way to deal with it. So the extra, yeah, Plague should be in here. Alright, we're 2-1. I'll see you in the next one. Hey, an early click on the record button. Hopefully my opponent comes in. There we go, cool. Ah, it's Nathan. This is going to be OmniTell, which is pretty rough. But... I am going to mulligan this. I do want to have a Mox Diamond start, and this is a Mox Diamond start, so pretty happy. Pretty happy just to drop the Dryad Arbor here, and probably just lead on with the Sylvan Library. I think in this case my opponent is... we're probably looking at something like... Yeah, Blue-White Omni. I'm actually going to bottom a Wasteland and drop the Dryad Arbor to the Mox Diamond, because it pumps the Knight, but also pumps Scavenging Ooze if I need to switch up my threats. So we'll drop Wasteland, cancel. Cool. Maybe the second Mox Diamond is a little bit risky, but because I think I'll be able to get some value off this Sylvan Library. I can hopefully get another land for the Mox Diamond, so should hopefully be okay. And it looks like it is going to be OmniTell. Chalice is probably another card that I'm looking for. 2 cards on top. Definitely not what I want to see. Wasteland. We do have Meddling Mages in the board, which are pretty good. Thalia is also pretty good. Okay, Abrupt Decay can go back, but I'll pay for the Wasteland. There's also a thought not to care about it, but I do like that it can increase my clock pretty quickly, just by wastelanding myself. But I'd rather pay for other cards that I can actually... So obviously Sylvan Library, I want to be able to use it pretty efficiently against this deck as well. I just want to be able to dig for things like Chalice, which even by now is a bit too late, but maybe some cards like Liliana of the Veil. Leo is not the worst. I think we will just pay for both. And here I get to go cast a Mox. See if they want to counter it. If they want to counter it, that's fine. We have the Windswept Teeth into Night, which is nice as well. Now we get to fetch. Probably just getting a Bayou. Playing a Night. We are down to 0 cards. I guess Mox Diamond does that, but this could just be a force and then we have no pressure. Pitch Omni. I think the top 3 cards have to be Chalice, Land, and Liliana of the Veil, and then I might have a chance, but otherwise it's pretty grim. Ponder chose not to shuffle. They didn't... Oh, they played a land. Apologies. Okay, well, there's Lily. And pretty close. I think just to dig... I think I'm happy to keep that. Because if I'm at 7, it doesn't really matter against this deck. So let's go Lily, tick up, and then lose the Abrupt Decay. Alright. Not good enough. Cunning Wish is pretty easy. I do like the Rex Sage. I don't mind the Teeg and the Meddling Mages. There's nothing else here. I don't believe Nathan's on Lotus Petal. 2 Lotus Petal. I don't think that's a reason to bring in the Oof. I'm pretty happy just to drop the Abrupt Decays, which is pretty tough. I'm not going to sideboard too aggressively for this matchup. I know it is pretty awful, so I think I'm pretty happy just to hopefully run into these, and maybe we can scope through a win. But it's definitely not a matchup that I would consider something sideboarding for. It's good to have splash cards, but I wouldn't, you know, dedicate sideboard slots in 4-color Loam to beat Sneaker Show, because you probably still won't, even if you have the specific cards that you need. It's more about just making sure you have some cards that are great in other matchups that you can also play in this one. Double Chalice is interesting into Meddling Mage if we draw a land that's colored. I think the mana base just stops us here a little bit too much, but pretty happy to mulligan this. Or like, I guess because the Sylvan Library brings this back, drop the Uro. Maybe drop the Blast Zone. Yeah. Maybe there's a better 5, but this deck does heavily rely on the Sylvan Library. Okay. Cabal Pit. Okay, I don't mind going for Bob here. Just means it can't be spell pierced, which is nice. Planes for most likely something like Meddling Mage. Yikes. I'm not going to show the Caracas. Impulse is always scary. I believe the old Impulse actually says shuffle after, which you don't do anymore. I think it had an Oracle text update. Yeah, I guess we put in Caracas and hope for the best. All right, that is the show and tell matchup. We will see you hopefully soon for match 5. Cheers. Hey, welcome back to Dukes on Twitch. I think this is up against Goblin Lucky One. I'm pretty happy to keep this. Alright, let's go Mox, pitch, drop, play. I could play the Windswept Heath, or I could blow it up. I think I'm happy playing the Heath because it gives me kind of an extra land into the graveyard in a way. If that makes sense. It does make sense. Just gonna get a Forest and cast Bob. Alright, Lucky. That's pretty interesting. I think just getting the Knight down here is better than anything else. see how they block. No blocks. Okay. Gem palm this, nice. Kind of want a loam here just to put it in the bin. Crater Maker's okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think I will Loam. And then see if I can Blast Zone my opponent. Chalice Decay. Okay. Get back Wasteland. Maze of Ith. Play Maze and pass. Vial's gonna be okay. Just gonna get Blast Zone. Pretty good. Feels like a matron. Okay. What are you getting? Probably a... Yes, it's a tough one. Obviously, Cabal Pit is an awesome out. So I think I will try to loan myself into Cabal Pit, get it back, and then use the last one to go for it. Can we hit Cabal Pit? We don't. Okay, that's fine. They got Mog War Marshal. Happy to get rid of the matron. I did mean to untap it there. Okay. I think next turn it's just Loam and Strix. The 1/1 Goblins are going to be really good at just blocking and really keeping the knight at bay, so they got a Muxus. Like he... Alright. Another knight. That's interesting. What if we go Loam back a fetch land and say Blaststone, and then go and get... No, that doesn't work. I was going to say Cabal Therapy. Sorry, Cabal Pit. Alright, let's attack first. And then here I can untap knight. It's worked out much better in my head, but now I think they're going to be able to Muxus, which is pretty rough. So I could Wasteland here, but then if they have a removal spell for the Baleful Strix, it doesn't really matter. So I'd rather put them on having not having the extra land than having a removal spell. Ah! Okay. Yikes. Yeah, just poor play. Just poor play. Yeah, I'm just going to concede that. And then we can try to get games 2 and 3 with Plagues and Swords. I think I like these. I don't mind taking out the Chalices. I'll take out one Loam. Bajuka Bob can come out. I don't mind the Bobs. Tabernacle's pretty good. I'll take out one Library. And one Lily. Lily's actually pretty poor. Maybe... Library's a little bit better. I do want to be able to see library in these games, just to even scry a little bit. But yeah, that was just some pretty poor play. Definitely not using my Knight more with the maze and untapping it. I didn't have a land for a lot of the time to actually utilize in my turn, but maybe I should have been using Loam a bit more to get those lands back instead of just relying on the lands being in the graveyard to make the Knight big enough that it can't be beaten by anything. But yeah, that was a pretty big shame concession. I don't want to watch that one back. The Goblin seems okay post board. Having the Plagues and the Tabernacle is really nice. Mulligan this. I do want some interaction. This is a bit better. It's a turn 2 Bob. I'll keep this. I'll bottom the Baron more. Kind of hope it's a Vile start than a Lackey start. Relic's gonna be fine. Okay. Just gonna fetch for a Trop and play Bob. Gonna be fine. I like land here more than anything else. Top 5 is pretty good. Not the greatest use of a Rex Sage, but I just want to have a creature in play. And I do have to get rid of these relics if I want to get Loam going. Sure. I did not need to do that. I was going to Loam it back, but I don't really need that because then the Loam goes to the bin and the Relic just holds the bin anyway, so... yeah. Relic really strong here. There's some consideration to play out the Plague Engineer before I play the Bob to play around Munitions Expert, but it's pretty hard to not try to get creatures out ASAP and also just ways to draw more cards, but Because currently here I'm not really doing a whole lot. I don't have a great engine. I don't have a big creature. Yeah, that's just GG. I guess we'll, like, even a Plague Engineer off the top is probably my best draw, and that doesn't really do anything. Yeah, we'll play it out. Like, Green Suns for Knight isn't great. Green Suns for Uro obviously isn't great. Green Suns for Leopold isn't really where I want to be. Guess I don't mind Leopold. It's still a 3/3, which is better than anything else. It's just tough. Really need to make sure. I can definitely see where the Punishing Fire version does well against these sort of decks that go wide, but I am going to call that. Rough. So a pretty nice start to a pretty awful finish. The league started really well, especially against the other mid-range decks. I felt this deck was really strong, but I think really it just comes down to my ability with the deck, and just not having reps with the deck adds up. Little things like keeping up the wrong mana with Abrupt Decay, not sequencing Sylvan Library correctly with Dark Confidant, so something like putting a Knight on top instead of an Abrupt Decay that I know about. So I think that, you know, only more time with the deck is going to be beneficial for me. So the deck is a blast to play. I think if anything, it's super punishing with how you fetch, and that's something to really consider when you're learning the deck, is to really keep in mind what you're fetching, maybe like the different hands you keep, and what sort of lands you go for in the early game, because there were a few times there where the mana just didn't really line up well. So something to definitely think about. But I hope you enjoyed this. I'll be back next week with some more content. I'm not sure if I'll cover Loam again. It might be the punishing version, because I would like to try that out. I've been playing Punishing Maverick, and that's been super strong. So it might just be, yeah, another Loam piece. But if you do like this content, definitely subscribe. I do have 2 streams a week as well, which get uploaded to YouTube. So usually about 3 videos a week, which is pretty cool. But yeah, let me know about my misplays in chat. Let me know where I can improve, because it would be cool to see, especially with that game 1 against Goblins. I feel like I just didn't really use Knight to my advantage, and also the Loam in the bin. So it's yeah, it's a tough one to swallow, but I think that, you know, feedback and getting more reps of the deck is the only way to improve as a player. So yeah, hope you guys have a nice week, and I'll see you guys soon. Thanks.